Young Justice Season 4 returned to HBO Max this week with a brand new episode entitled Volatile. I'm Cape Joel, and this is the video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, as well as shouting out any comic book Easter eggs or references I can find. So with that out of the way, let's get on to it, shall we? This episode actually begins with a flashback to one of Beast Boy's last missions on Earth with the Outsiders. They're fighting longtime Young Justice foes, the Cult of Cobra, with a K, whose battle cry is all than a little bit similar to G.I. Joe's classic Cobra villains with a C. This battle actually gives us a pretty good look into what the Outsiders roster evolved into since the last season. We see familiar faces like Tim Drake Robin and Cassie Sandsmark Wonder Girl rocking a newer costume that looks even closer to the original Wonder Woman's armor. Then we have Windfall, whose costume really has been overhauled for the better in my mind from her comic counterpart, no more superfluous cape or clashing pink accents. And then rounding things out, we have Stargirl. Hey, she's doing so good in live action right now, why shouldn't she be in the cartoons as well? Now, last week I read a comment complaining that we got 2 whole brand new episodes of Young Justice and not a single fight scene to be had between them. This never personally bothered me as I watched the show just as much for characterization and intrigue as anything else. And hey, some of my favorite comic book stories don't actually involve that much fighting either, so why should it bother me here? They certainly make some, let's call them creative choices when it regards to action, mainly utilizing a lot of still frames to create the illusion of battles happening around us. Now, what does any of this have to do with the story back on Mars? Well, it relates to a bit of old business from last week, mainly Beast Boy being in a sour and pissy mood since they left. At first, it seemed like this stemmed from his breakup with his princess girlfriend, but thankfully, it's all a little bit deeper and more complex, and it's more or less the focus of Volatile. Meanwhile, at the other end of the episode, we have Connor and Megan still completing wedding preparations. They got their sorcerer priestess, now they just need to finish the canopy and altar as is tradition. They just hope whoever took a pot shot at them last week, and who maybe very well also sabotaged the Zeta Tube experiment, doesn't try again anytime soon. Prince Jem is so thankful for all the help the Earthlings are offering him and his family, he agrees to tag along with the guys in the Martian equivalent of a bachelor party. We also discover this episode that once upon a time Prince Jem actually loved the priestess, but they couldn't be together because before she took her oath she was a green Martian, and that kind of union would be considered scandalous on Mars. Fun fact, Prince Jem actually is a character from the comics, only as I said before in the last video, there are no red Martians in DC Comics. Instead, he was actually a clone from the planet Saturn left over from when the Martians tried to colonize the planet. Once again, I gotta tip my hat and say I respect all the bold swings this arc takes when it comes to dealing with themes of racism, bigotry, and oppression. It's all the very best parts of Star Trek-style science fiction. You see, once again, Superboy and Beast Boy try and look into the old king's murder, but they end up hitting a major wall when they realize not only are all Martians genetically the same despite color, but according to Beast Boy, they carry the very same scent and taste signature. Geez, it's like racism is not only morally wrong, it's stupid and illogical as well. This episode also featured a major development in the story of the Bioship of all characters. Last week we saw the ship return to the place of its birth, and this week discover it's actually with child. Yes, a brand new Bioship named Baby, who will be helping the heroes from here on out. And that would be because the old Bioship is actually nearing the end of its life. Apparently Bioships like Galapagos turtles return home to give birth before eventually, well, dying themselves in the great cosmic circle of life. Never did I think I would actually end up feeling so emotional for a ship, but I guess Bioship did have a very long and important run in the series, didn't it? Made even more impactful when it's revealed that the ship was also a major reason Megan was able to come to Earth in the first place. She bonded with it even though she wasn't supposed to, and then stowed away on it when Martian Manhunter came to Earth. I suppose this also ties into the greater theme of this story arc, and that is growing older and moving on. Volatile was an episode that also saw the return of fan favorite and original character Green Beetle for the first time since season 2. What's he been up to? Not much, but it's still fun to see him. Did you know that Ba'ar's Aum is actually a reference to John Carter of Mars and planet Barsoom? Well, now you do. Now, as the guys start building the altar, we actually learn some very interesting stuff about Megan's white Martian dad. Apparently, after he married his wife, her green Martian family disowned her completely, all except for John Jones, the Martian Manhunter. Apparently, his time on Earth actually helped him learn empathy and tear down a lot of Martian prejudices. Superboy finds it amazing to think that despite all of humanity's troubles and foibles, they could actually end up having such a positive effect on John. And hey, while we're here, fun voice actor fact, did you know that Megan's dad is voiced by the legendary Carl Lumbly, who not only voiced Martian Manhunter in most of the animated movies and TV outings, but he also just so happened to play a live-action version of John's father in the Supergirl show just recently? It's true. This also just so happens to be the place wherein the Beast Boy story starts to come to a major head. His irritable behavior starts to become dangerous when he begins seeing visions of Brion attacking Superboy. It's made abundantly clear that Gar still hasn't made peace with his teammates' betrayal at the end of the previous season, and he blames himself for it all. It makes a fair amount of sense too. Gar lost his own mother at a young age and then lost his beloved godmother too not long after. He doesn't want to see his surrogate team family fall apart the same way all of his other families have fallen apart. Even if that means in his own fractured mind trying to quote-unquote save Superboy by getting him to the sun, even if it ends up killing him along the way. Luckily, before things can get too bad, Miss Martian steps on in and helps fix Beast Boy's mind, which has been bruised and exacerbated by all the psychic interference he's gone through while on Mars. That's still not to say his feelings weren't real or valid, it's just that they were made 100 times worse. Only, here's the thing, it couldn't possibly have been Megan who stepped on in and saved the day, because she's too busy having a major blowout argument with her sister that's been building ever since she came back home to Mars. Turns out the sister has actually already been married twice before, but minus all the pomp and circumstance, and she thinks that Megan is actually putting on a big show in front of her parents just to prove how much of a Martian she is. Things end up taking a very uncomfortable racial turn when Megan blames her older sister for never standing up for her or Malafalak when they were being bullied as kids for being white Martians. And that if anyone hates their own heritage, it's the sister for doing away with her white Martian father's last name and assuming the Jones moniker to distract from having a white Martian father. It doesn't take Megan long to realize, though, that she's starting to sound a lot like her brother Makam, and maybe there's enough hurt to go around in this family. Also, Megan's mom pretty much reiterates what I said at the top of the last video, and that is despite pretending to be a green Martian for the first couple seasons of Young Justice, Megan really has shown how much she's grown and changed, and that the form she's using now really is her truest of identities, and that she probably never would have been able to come to this realization or find the man that she loved if she didn't end up running away from Mars to Earth. Again, this is some truly heavy family drama that I thought the show dealt with exceptionally well. This is the sort of thing that even a live-action show that wasn't about superheroes or aliens probably could have dropped the ball on, but they don't here. Of course, all of this still begs the question, if it wasn't Miss Martian who stepped on in and helped Beast Boy during his time of need, who was it? Well, turns out it was Saturn Girl and the Mysterious Legion of Superheroes. They did their part, even though getting involved kinda sort of is against the rules of time travel. Oh yeah, they're time travelers, by the way. I already knew this because I'm a comic fan, but if you're just watching the show with no background, then yeah, that's probably pretty surprising. And so that was Volatile, everyone, an episode that I thought succeeded quite well in spinning a number of different story plates all at once. We certainly are getting a better understanding about Martian culture and history, and as I said before, the whole thing has a very nice retro Star Trek kind of vibe to it. As far as the big overarching mystery goes, I thought this one didn't really do a lot to further the plot about who or what has actually been causing so much trouble for the heroes, but if I've watched enough Law & Order, I know that the suspect is probably the person who has been in the show the least amount, but who also seems to be everywhere at once. So I'm looking at you, sorceress priestess lady. I'm also sure the lack of any traditional action scenes will continue to be a bone of contention for some people out there, but my hope is that the money they're saving here in the early part of the season will be put to great use in the latter half of the season. So yeah, overall, pretty good. So that'll just about do it for me for another video, everyone. As always, I've been Cave Joel. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you liked the video, be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little bell so you never miss out on the next great Young Justice video.